the course of my life, essentially. I had a startup that had to do with communities. I started a community in China that became like one of the largest crypto communities in China. Eventually, I joined DAOstack after I was kind of advising and working with them. And in DAOstack, I did two projects. The first one is DHack, and then the Builder Collective, which was essentially decentralizing the decision-making of Ethereum hackathons. A part of DAOstack was DXDAO, which was kind of like the birth child of Gnosis and DAOstack. And I've been a member of the DXDAO essentially since the inception. And recently I joined Collider Ventures, which is an early stage crypto venture fund out of Israel. And yeah, I'm very passionate about this space. I really believe that like this is going to bring the future. And yeah, I think we took a couple of wrong turns. So yeah, let's maybe start with a brief history of DAOs, right? So we had, as we said, like the DAO hack in 2016, which kind of blew up and made everyone scared about DAOs for a long time. In 2017 and 2018, we had the Aragon and DAOstack ICOs. And then in ETH Denver 2018, we had the first like Moloch implementation. And that was, super interesting. In 2019, we had a sort of like a Moloch Cambrian explosion with Metacartel leading and lots of like small DAOs coming up that are using like the Moloch framework. In 2020, we had the DeFi summer, right? What started as sort of like Compound issuing a token expanded into so many different projects releasing their tokens. And most of them were either using the Compound governance made by Compound, or the snapshot.page, which is essentially a very centralized server that aggregates votes. And yeah. And then in 2021, the standard has become token voting, quote unquote, where you have Snapshot and Gnosis Safe, and that's what everybody's using. And some are considering doubling down on that. So. Wait, before I continue, who is a part of a DAO here? Nice. And a part of a DAO, does that mean that you hold their token? Do you actually vote or participate in governance or stuff like that? Anyone? Yes? No? All right. It's good. Lots of DAO people. So yeah, the ownership economy. I took this straight up from Jesse Walden's paper in 2020. Early 2020, there was this whole move from the ownership economy, from like, what do you call it? Essentially like the legacy systems into, the notion that rather than a platform's inner circle of founders and investors taking, home all the value created, all the users who are participating will also be able to gain some value from their contribution. So that's kind of, that's what was essentially promised. And we're going to talk in a bit about whether we actually fulfill this. And yeah, maybe I want to ask a question of like what makes DAOs tick? What makes them work? Anyone? Shh, Sky. Yeah? Memes. Okay, yeah, memes make DAOs work, yeah. What else? What makes, I guess, DAOs drive forward? I guess in traditional organizations, there's like a CEO, and he sets a path. So what makes DAOs work? Like, how do DAOs make progress? Sorry?
Active community.
Active community. Okay, that's nice. So yeah, I think like Sky said this because Sky's heard me on so many like DXDAO calls like say this. That initiative makes DAOs work. So yeah, and I'll give a few examples for initiatives, and this could come from like community, this could come from, people who are inside the DAO. So there's the famous Andre proposal to stop minting any Wi-Fi, which literally sent it to the moon, giving Wi-Fi the meme of being a finite coin, just like Bitcoin. So that was kind of incredible. Index Co-op had like a community proposal to add the Metaverse Index after they had DPI, and this became like one of their most successful products. You have on the bottom here with Aave, you have the sushi community asking the Ava community to list X sushi and be able to, get collateral from it. So that's, that was kind of an amazing proposal. And you have the bonsai proposal from a bunch of devs to build sushi on Rust, like with Rust on Solana, which was also very interesting. And then the last one here is a DAO talk proposal in DXDAO where one of the members actually criticizes fairly badly some of the actions that the DXDAO has done, like around providing liquidity from the treasury, which essentially takes out tokens from the treasury and puts them in the open market. And yeah, like what happened after this is that this Pulp Machina guy or girl or both eventually joined the DXDAO and became like a full contributor after the DXDAO really welcomed their feedback. Yeah, who has made and passed like a governance proposal? That's not too many, really. That's it? Yeah. What did it take to pass the proposal? Not much? All right. Yeah, has anyone like went to like a different community and started proposing them something, worked with that community to pass a proposal, basically? It's not an easy thing. All right, well, I'll have a meme to describe it. Can you read it? Yeah. So it took like a forum topic, Discord AMA, 3 community calls, one-on-one calls with stakeholders, answer questions, proposal revisions, more calls, and $100 in gas. So we're on the right track, right? There's bottom-up collaboration. Communities can go to other communities and participate in the governance. There is, we had this event where I showed with the DXDAO where someone comes and criticizes the DAO, criticizes the community, and eventually ends up joining them. So I'm going to talk about the problems, and I'm going to do this in memes because I think, a meme is worth 1,000 explanations. So this is, sorry. Yeah, so this is, on the top, you see like the ownership economy. This is from the original Jesse Walden paper about the ownership economy. And then, what's that? A16Z, Polychain, Bain Capital, Gauntlet Paradigm, and Robert Leshner have like all the voting power. Like there's no way to pass a proposal without them. Ooh. So yeah, we have, we're going to do some ownership economy, and then we decided to make a sharp turn and recreate the existing capital economy. Right? This is like, we wanted to do like good governance stuff, but we got co-opted basically. Yeah, and then we have this one. Who here is in a multisig of one that essentially governs, I don't know, billions of dollars? Is there anyone? Yeah, we have some hands. We have some hands. maybe put down your hand, Yeah, and then this is like the last thing that has happened. Who is aware of the Uniswap like DeFi fund stuff that's happening, right? So you have like this proposal that comes up in the forum from Harvard Business Law or Harvard Law School, I think. They come up, we're gonna, give us 1.5 million uni, and we're gonna do this. It started as an education fund, and then it became a defense fund. And there's this guy, Chris Black from DeFi Watch. I highly urge you to check him out, check the website. But he goes and he asks all these questions, and people are in the forum asking all these questions, and they don't give a shit. Like they don't answer anything. They just continue, put the proposal up, and what happened eventually is that they pass it. These are like the top uni holders. The community, you see like lots of comments of like, I'm going to vote against it, but obviously the community doesn't really have a voice. Yeah, sorry.
That's not true.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
All the steering committee members made posts in the governance forum. They may not have responded exactly to Chris's thing, but there was a whole dialogue. There were steering committee members
I mean, Chris Black did hold, like...
No, we held.
Sorry, who is we?
One of the steering committee members held a Twitter space.
Okay, interesting. So what do you think about this entire thing? Was it like community fair? Or like...
No, I don't even. Cool. I mean, it was passed by like an overwhelming majority, and not like, oh, the A16Z voted, and that's why. I'm
Because it's in the streaming.
okay. It's not like, oh, A16Z pushed it through. It's like Gauntlet, yes, was a big, like, had big voting power, but there were also tons of people with very small voting power who passed it through. So I do think it was actually a very strong community-run proposal and, you know, voting process.
Interesting.
Chris Black has a very strong voice, for
Yeah.
sure. But he wants what he wants on his terms, and I think there's a way, like, that's fine, and there can always be strong members of a community with a loud voice, but I think there was a bigger dialogue, and he muted that.
Okay, interesting. So you see there are a couple... I mean, I'm assuming the truth is somewhere in between, but the feeling was from the community that this wasn't like adequately addressed, like all the questions that happened in the community. So, yeah. So what are some of the issues that we showed in memes here? Anyone? Yes. Anyone? Yes. Sorry? Centralizing shit? Is that what you said? All right, yeah, so we have like centralized stuff. We have like not really ownership economy, right? Like you have, you know, VCs and team members that are still owning most of the voting power. So yeah, how can we fix this? And I have two ideas. Like the first one is to actually practice decentralization on, you know, sidechains and L2s. Because, you know, the problem, and some will say, you know, this is why we went to use Snapshot, because, you know, I don't want to pay $50 to vote on a proposal. Like, no one's going to do that. And yeah, and so instead we use Snapshot, and it's like, it is a server at the end of the day. That's what Snapshot is. So if someone could corrupt that, and I mean, I don't want to predict that someone's going to hack the Snapshot servers and, you know, turn a proposal into a passing one. But yeah, it might happen. And then, yeah, the second thing that maybe we're going to talk about is, you know, to empower those who work and use the products with reputation, or, you know, karma, as you can also call it. So reputation-based voting power. So what is reputation? Reputation is like, or karma can be gained by working for the DAO. Participating in DAO activities and contributing to the ecosystem. And important to say that reputation is non-transferable. And then DAOs can gauge, you know, like forum participation, call attendance, discourse, and other like intangible contribution. And, you know, there are a couple of tools that do that. I think SourceGrid is like a very interesting one that kind of like grabs the participation. And then, yeah, convert that into actual voting power. And yeah, that's kind of like on the other side. And then we have reputation versus token-based voting. So in reputation-based voting, you don't own the voting power, right? It's controlled by the DAO. The DAO gives you a value that, you know, gives you a voting score, as opposed to like controlled by the individual in token voting, where you can sell, buy, whatever. As we said, like it's non-transferable. It is resilient to vote buying. Like, you know, if I want to sell you my reputation, I actually have to sell you my private key, which is going to be problematic. And then the last thing is we're talking about like objective and non-objective decisions, where, you know, with token-based voting, you're looking at the monetary value that can be produced by, you know, essentially the proposal. So I'm not saying, you know, we should go all the way to reputation or all the way, yeah, basically, you know, eliminate token voting completely, because it's an important part of, you know, governance. But instead, you know, we utilize both token voting and reputation voting to create a unified formula that incentivizes participation. And now I know there are a couple of projects that are working on that. I'm going to be talking about like some work that's been done by DXDAO, This was, I think, about a year ago. There was a working group. It had people from Delphi, from DXDAO, from DAOstack, and from 1KX working essentially on how to structure the governance and the voting power better in the future. And we had, there are a couple of like primitives. DXD is like a financial representation in the DXDAO, but it holds no actual voting power. And we were looking into how to incorporate both of them, and it's going to be a bit. Oh, sorry, it's primitives first. So the decision that we made is that rep or reputation is earned. DXD is the the liquid financial value of DXDAO. Holding DXDAO does not necessitate governance participation, and reputation should remain non-transferable. And we're talking about like using it as a multiplier or constant or applied as a denominator to basically your voting power. And DXD guarantees like the financial claims on DXDAO future revenue. So I'm not going to go like into like this entire thing, but there was a proposed equation that includes both DXD and reputation that calculates your voting power. And so DXDAO is an organization that started from like pure reputation, and now it's moving towards voting power, token voting. And I think most of the other governance systems are fully token voting, and now they should move, at least with baby steps, towards reputation voting. There's like a lot of interesting stuff here. Everything here is open source, and this hopefully will be started to code. We will start to coding that soon. DXD should be locked for the future, which gives you voting power. This is like kind of borrowing from what Curve is doing. And then reputation sort of like is the influence that would give you like more voting power. And the goal of this is to incentivize anyone to have reputation, anyone to actually go and do tangible work for the DAO. Yes. That's it. Open discussion. Does anyone have any questions? Do I have more time? No? Any questions, thoughts? Yeah? Oh, yeah.
I guess I'm wondering the usage of Snapshot and like other tools that like are not ideal because of the reasons you pointed out. They are popular because people find them easy to use. And when you're kind of starting a community, you have to do everything to get that engagement from users because it's really hard. So how do we balance that kind of like making it easy and free for people to engage with governance and maybe exciting with the, kind of like hardcore security and parameters and like everything on chain and decentralized?
Yeah, I mean, this is an important question. And I think, what we're doing with Snapshot is we're using 90s forum voting technology, and we're calling it decentralized. It's like that specifically is kind of a joke. At least let's not fool ourselves, and let's say, okay, we're using a completely centralized method, and this is the way to get signal, to gauge participation, to get an understanding. But this is far from like on-chain voting, and this is. I think the first step would be to be honest with ourselves about like what we're doing, and then, try to move to like more scalable systems, and hopefully, with layer 2s and side chains, any of that, like it would make a bit more sense to, actually practice on-chain governance. Yeah.
Well, in this case, I guess it's more a comment. I would disagree here. So Snapshot has issues. It can kind of the data availability issue, so it can censor votes, but that is all it can. So otherwise, the voting obviously has a signature, so you can't kind of just create votes. It's quite different from Web 2 server structure where they can just claim anything. And the second element is what we Gnosis, we created this connection called SafeSnap to make snapshot votes trustlessly executable via a safe, so kind of the current setup where you have to trust the multi-sig owners, there will be a nice bridge kind of to eventually get rid of them.
Yeah, so what happens in SafeSnap where, someone is able to censor votes and, the outcome was supposed to be yes if all the votes were counted, but the UI shows it's no because someone was able to censor votes, and then you have SafeSnap which bridges that, and it bridges essentially a faulty reality, right? Yeah? So, I mean, this is, these are all problems. Hopefully we'll solve them, but yeah, I think we need to be honest with what we're doing. And yeah, I think there are lots of DXDAO people here if you want to ask them about their governance, which is completely on-chain from A to Z. And it's a very interesting experiment. So yeah, I don't know, any other questions? Yeah?
Hi, I'm Jade. This was a great talk.
Thank you.
Right now I'm building a DAO with a bunch of other founders in the creator economy, so bridging Web 2 to Web 3. So one of the things that we're starting is non-transferable with reputation. I like that phrase. We don't call it that. We have another name, but that's cool. And then I know you mentioned token-based voting in the DAO helps kind of scale it. However, I guess you get this question a lot, and not everyone wants to see that whole spreadsheet of equations, but I'd actually like to know a little more clarity on how you created this token-based governance, because how do you, part of a DAO is having values beyond just financial incentive, because then you get bad decision making. So I guess my question is, how do you, when you migrate to token-based voting, how do you make sure you incentivize the right reasons, right decision making, and if you're able to lightweight explain that last slide, it'd be cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess the question of how do you migrate to token voting, you're assuming because someone holds the token and they are staking it for, let's say, 2 years, then they are aligned for at least those next 2 years with the success of the token. So they will vote for things that they believe will cause the token at least to increase in value. That's kind of like the simplest assumption. So can you remind me the beginning of the question? Sorry.
How did you go from the exact transition between reputation to token? Was it just you slowly onboarded, you announced, what was that migration looking like? And then how did you create the tokenomics for the
So
token
the way this actually started is that, DXD holders were complaining. They were like, what is this? This is a bureaucracy organization that only reputation holders can vote. We have no say. We've invested in this project. And, they were pissed. And I think DXDAO is very good at taking criticism and feedback. And yeah, from that, we decided that we're going to start, what do you call it, a working group to address this. And we had many different proposals from many different people, like Delphi, 1KX, and DAOstack. And it was kind of a back and forth. We were trying to understand what we want. And at the start, because DXDAO is a reputation-first organization, we're okay, so reputation should be the basis of voting power. And, DXD or LockDXD should, influence that. And then we kind of went back and forth, and I think it was a 2-month-long process, or yeah, probably even more. And yeah, there's, I can send over the full proposal because it explains a lot more, the results of that working group. So yeah, I can send that to you. Anyone else?
I think.
Yes. Last question.
Okay, last question.
Yeah, last
very
question.
Short.
Thank you. So just a short question. So what do you think about the approach to do a web of trust instead of using the reputation as, so basically using the trust between people who work on the project? Basically, the idea is super simple. You block money on your friends as a proof that you trust them. They do the same on their friends, and you use it to be sure that one person has one vote. And so you can do a more decentralized governance, but you have to take the time to block money on your friends.
So that's a question if you want to do one person, one vote. Is that the right system?
Yeah.
If I'm a full-time worker and you just join the Monday calls and you're available sometimes, then should we have the same voting power? how can we quantify my contribution as opposed to yours? And this is an interesting question. Like, in that kind of realm, it's not really web of trust, but you have like the Orca guys, which are ex-Aragon people, and they're building like essentially a network of multisigs that are building on each other with like, you know, different permissions for each multisig. Like this is, I believe this is going to be an interesting one to look at, and how like a DAO would function with just, you know, a big collection of multisigs. So.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.